Okay, we're going to learn about how and why there is truth. Then there is truth especially. There's things that are especially true. And how there is truth that is especially differentially. And we're also going to realize that what it is especially differentially in relationship to and as. One identity is coming to, from, while as itself, distinctly. Everywhere there is distinction. And while with itself further, as another identity of volume, as value as nature, slash value as nature as values simultaneously. And there's another the identity of sequence slash simultaneously further. There are 1/3/5 bound. They are bound one way 3. They are bound one way 5. And they are bound as one bound identity, a volume that is self-generating as a simultaneous, distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous nature of value. Such, in other words, nature of self, value generation, generation increase. One identity of volume that is invisible. Its identity of relationships to itself stays distinct when it is not as something else. It is still, while it is as something, it is itself distinctly. This is where and how we are a quality of diffusion. Where and how science reveals. Science revealed to the ancients, rather. Science using this method that uses the identity that is true always, without the slightest exception, denied or having been denied, because it is still its identity as truth, has exceptions at the same time, which again is in relationship to how there is truth that is true, things that are especially true, and things that are especially differentially true. And where and how. For example, terms like sophistication come up. Terms like healthcare. Because this is right through administrations, it is recorded. They have excuses and things like that. It's alright, people want to make excuses to defend themselves, but that's why we have to address the switching names. Because these are how the interbranch location has been switching names individually grouped and together. That's a method they use on their locations, which is part of what is how it is recorded. That off their locations increasingly they have to use and have to value having been used. All investigators need for them in the first place, by a breaching method effectively maintained, specifically for them to be used to hide their roles with that which bound everyone to recorded blaming other things, others themselves, wrongly, for the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, in denials of the needs to bring reliefs to all identity ground locations simultaneously, and simultaneously distinctly, because all identity ground locations were sickly distinctly, hurt specifically to keep us from being a fact cheap in nature oriented science slash S capable of affording anyone from using correlation simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive means, which are more finite than and are greater than that, while as that, and we don't even have that allowed in all kinds of ways. So they say, oh, we'll let other people decide this. And they have fact achievements about what is the issue. So we're supposed to take their word for it when that's roles also. See, this is also where overt criminal enterprises are also involved with our identity with ground locations. Fact sheet nature. People associated all along roads, routes, highways. This is a little trap across the globe since before cars. The pathology of infrastructure of means to afford the elements of it. And defenses of roles with that. Needs, natures with that. For example, every identity of the ground location was employed, again, to keep what was juxtaposed through all kinds, this is sustained to keep manifest premises treatments used, and then self-value uses of that to keep identities tactically, the complete possession of a predicate acts delivery system method that uses human fact sheet nature, correlation nature, that knew that there would have to be live progressions right back to all identity of the ground locations, valuing where and how they have the value/value progression of the people associated with it, like the Department of Motor Vehicles, Department of Transportation. All services tied to the interbranch, individually grouped and together. Recorded crime methods, wire crime methods. But you have to be able to tell on this stuff outside of court. Is evidence that change wouldn't come through courts because those courts were involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, people that had nothing to do with each other, and innocent people with narratives, with the narratives were controlling what made everyone sick roles, with the sick database relationships, but tactically way worse than just limited. All things that the colonists and that the early Americans and that we now need to have to protect ourselves, to protect anyone wherever they're going to go or be. And see, the more that rolls with that self-value having been forsaken, because that was exploited further, is exploited for where and how we are invisible but still discernible identity of value/value progression that could/can effectively be used. Self-value. All mass roles, fake sides of correlation nature's trinity. Where grouped, diacritical, bullion relationships can't afford, are not that, are prevented. The proper syntax, fact sheet nature, exception nature. See, exception nature. Exceptions in exception nature are decimated by this predicate acts delivery system method that came from some ancient times to maintain self-valued roles with increasing needs to self-value the decimation of use, of the ability of anyone to use the short words protracted by and as the ones that are using the identity of truth, that one that is exceptions at the same time. See, if we had allowed this to be used, where and how people have opinions, that they don't have the people that they debate about who has the right to have what opinion or not, but they frame it in relationship to what is with physical delusions that were tactically imposed with fake breaching screen, where the breaching method is completely fact, cheating nature, identity nature, predicate acts. And that was is sustained again to juxtapose other with it effectively, to propagate manifest simultaneously to all locations. Life progression cover up nature's needs styles in relationship to those simple, just extensive means for each identity of person, each of every identity of the ground, location, area, and state, and country, to be able to answer, make correlation. See, but we have tricks that were our maintain self-value, for example, per the method that keeps adapting to where and how it has to adapt to where and how it has to keep self-cultivated, self-value, defenses of locations, areas, and states, not integrity, fact treatments, facts findings involved with sequence shifting, predicate acts, data racketeering, data streams racketeering, identity thefts and frauds, methods of it, roles, that child abuses, elderly abuses that are simultaneously connected per motivations everyone missed, but they're recorded. And it involves also understanding that and how a whole bunch of other nations who are here with the ones from my schools, who I never had classes with, how they tried to make exceptions. Where and how there are people I had classes with. That were recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. You know, part of their narratives where and how they use interbranch locations, where they have perfected evidence racketeering roles to cover up their roles with that predicate acts delivery system method that forced slavery. And that responds to what witch trials are about. Leaving that out, no. We had takes on American history that are formally. We have to have experts to preserve how crazy it would have been. Because we never got the method that kept and keeps it crazy. Debates about how they're going to preserve and or offensive, what they're going to be when they teach, what they're going to say, what they're going to use the time for, what they are not going to use the time for, and then how they're going to defend that note, and everyone's using each other's names. See, and this is involved with a method that was sophistication. Intercampuses of each age and nature and type, professional and non. That kept and keeps and knows how to do it. Live progressions from complete strangers, right back to all locations, self-valued simultaneously. The same way they have to have all the different physical hardware components of computers and of languages work distinctly, non-distinctly, but simultaneously. Towards that projection, which is the increasing identity of volume /S. That is the value/value progression. So, it's scary, but if one person could respond, leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context, and since there are a pattern of connected predicate acts, actual acts, and there are a whole bunch of foreign and domestic involved with online uses of online interbranch Facebook pages, intercampuses Facebook pages, for example, where they are also recorded and involved with the life progressions and uses of them, and the simultaneous child abuses and elderly abuses, which are simultaneously uses of all locations, with that method originally instilled, that predicate acts delivery system method that juxtaposed alter roles, needs, natures, defending how valuing systems tactically ulterior from it, criminally foreign influenced, natures of industries, natures of value allotments. This is set up as worse than a game. The market position in every country is a victim, sickly distinctly though. It's not just that we can, and sickly non-distinctly. So well, sickly distinctly. That way, that has everyone self-valuing it here there. Blamed on other things other than themselves. The real causes of it, what they have to respond to as fact-cheaping nature. That's negative and positive. Both of that is used against each identity ground location. Therefore, leaders, when that's not true, the other forces are true. It's simultaneously. Because of how fact-cheaping nature works. Nature's identity. Nature's identity of relationship to positive and negative simultaneously. I'm not a lawyer. It's recorded clear as day that lawyers in the bar itself was criminally foreign influenced and delusions wrought. And that is evidence. Therefore, they will roll simultaneously with all natures of evil and of fake care and of means to justify it. Not by accident, though. But if they want to justify it, let them do it on paper without, outside of courts that aren't involved with fabricating audio and video racketeering. There's not one modern science, let alone an identity of a branch of government, that can defend itself and afford any individual with the uses of that which is actively positive unto and as itself, while it is the finite, active, and progressive simultaneously as value. What is the progressive value of people stacking? Especially we have people stacking next to people stacking, like in cities, like in New York City, in cities throughout the world, note simultaneously. I'm not leaving you out. Because if we're going to make a solution that works here, we have to tell them how syntax nature. Here and there, everyone has to agree that everyone was a victim and is a victim of what can't fathom how to afford, what we need to afford to counter the tactically denatured relationship identity of the ground locations, all, let alone those most forsaken. And those most forsaken are recorded having been most forsaken specifically for fact-cheaping nature responses to it. Tactically, effectively, kept incapable of countering it, all exceptions in exception nature are in demonstration of it. They are breaching methods, screens, and tools, roles, the opinions of the entire species identity of volume. That's why evolution goes away. Its fruits and gifts. It's not because of the reasons, So Father LeMay did it all because the investigators of 9/11 too are also. See, they were involved. Are involved in the science is intermilitary, with people who have doctorates in psychology and in psychiatry, who are involved with medicine's racketeering. Way worse than that. But for example, and with drugs crimes at the same time, these are investigated, their roles with investigators, and with exploitation of anomaly, where and how they have lawyers in the bar itself, maintaining trick fact-cheaping nature, fake sides of correlation, nature, and collusion with the branches of government individually that grouped into themselves, with a whole bunch of other nations worse than war crimes. So what is extensive is self-valued, pretended by everyone to be complicated. What is only the short words prevented their protraction. Them native pure. And so that's why it is critical that we claim and teach that and how Native Americans, most practically and most probably, because of the rules with the natures of the predicate act delivery system method, they were a part of that ancient system that was held on to through Rome, which became smaller and smaller. But it was revealed, and yin yang was held on to through China. But there are proofs that the ancients revealed yin yang, alpha and omega, Allah's name, as that, to teach about the identity of value/value progression. And the exceptions are only in demonstration of the same thing. But there are exceptions. It's people that have to be, if you have to read the first part of the Quran and the first part of the Old Testament, they are prevented. The quality of fact, cheap nature, about truth and about honesty, capable of speaking about the predicate acts delivery system method and its relationship to the sense and sensibilities, using Jane Austen's phrase. But the fact cheap nature, the syntax nature of the human fact cheap nature, and nature's identity, and its simultaneous relationship to positive and to negative, as a semi-nature. So even where we are and how we are, individual, group, and species, identity of volume/S, each one individually grouped and together is still further a semi-nature in relationship to one identity's complete identity of relationship to itself. They have to follow the course of truth and sequence, truth value. The media recorded, confessed, demonstrated they're indifferent to roles with the FBI and with the CIA through administrations, with state police, Wethersfield police. If I was trying to hurt them, these are people involved with names forging and switching. Don't get involved with it. Influence, to use the phrase, the perfect world. A whole bunch of ways involved. Through administrations. Worse than war crimes, leading up to the World Trade Center attack. In that context and sense, the fact cheap nature, syntax nature, that is Washington, D.C. and World Trade Center and interbranch locations oriented. Possession over them one way, /S, a bunch of ways. That is simultaneously a relationship to what is intra-campuses and inter-campuses of each age and nature. Also on-off campuses, kept needing to hide lie progressions, including how offensively, because of how this is mimicking what nature forces demonstrated, where how there is value loss and gain simultaneously but naturally, and where that is tied to our fact-cheaping nature, syntax nature, but naturally. It's all right. People want to keep going with the abridged sciences, the abridged markets positions. It is not all right to deny fact-cheaping nature distinctions and evidences where and how that was forced. You can't deny that and afford defended American history and our founders' identities, and that which they left us for correlation to use. Relationship to the sequence shift self-value of people that made as victims. This is the child abuse method against everyone. I'll show it to you. But you have to respond for the interbranch. Because they're wanting and needing to pretend that me and the others have problems with people because they've been attaching little kids and their family members to fake words with each other, fake locations, fake ties to other people, fake natures of ties to other people. And they've been exploiting that per their roles and with methods of fabricating audio and video into databases interbranch with the foreign though. It's in a way that keeps that, if you start admitting it, which you're going to have to do, because they won't respond. I needed a response in paper. When we were there in person, they fabricated audio and video and confessed their roles. Interbranch, intercities, through time, has been involved with connected predicate acts on and off campuses, but on campuses and intra-campuses. They've been using investigators for identity thefts and frauds, falsified police reports roles, having them roles with natures of organized crime. Like, we also put how they're mixed with overt criminal enterprises, witness protection program stewards, the body dumping spot, people next to it, like a Faenza family. I also don't know that sought me out with all these confessions at once. Also tied to a Dillon family. Also 3 times recorded, confessed, and demonstrated by people associated with Hartford Hospital, were involved with medicines crimes, drugs crimes, and with military, with his family, with a bunch of people, and also with his family involved with prosecutors and judges with real estate crimes through time, because of how they lie about when people are trying to make complaints. Because they also just fabricate audio and video to replace what is actually recorded over phones with police, and over phones with police, with kids too through time, because they exploited that. That's also rolls with their sequence shifts and methods of switching and forging names and falsifying police reports, identity thefts and frauds that our police forms were involved with, ones that are also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with sexual circles that involve various natures of overt criminal enterprises and highly charged cultural people that are identities that are involved with investigations, investigators, and vetting identities. That is also, for example, where I mentioned World Trade Center has manifest relationships to the sense and sensibilities, to the fact treatment nature, the identities, the treatments of names. They have acting, though, projected into this. And then people go back and have fact treatment nature responses. This is a vertical and horizontal databases oriented worse than war crime, simple predicate acts delivery system method. But it is exploited from where and how it made self-valued first, originally and still. That being and having it being exploited, where roles with it has to simultaneously self-value the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures and illusions with all locations, areas, and states, blamed on other things other than themselves. Wrongly. Tactically wrongly, though. So the real nature of the law will never figure out things out that we would normally figure out. And everyone's pretending other for a breaching screen. So, these are the same people involved with the wire crime methods with the schools. And they fabricate audio and video, and they tell people to pretend they don't understand because they have the Facebook pages of Interbranch involved with the predicate acts of judges. And they have them intercampuses involved with the predicate acts of judges, private policing of the campuses, former director of the FBI, federal criminals that were his co-defendants in a 2006 case, already also recorded roles with predicate acts through time involved with databases oriented, but from their illusions and uses of them Same ones that are involved on and off Fox Connecticut News with two Mendez police involved with predicate acts on and off that Hartford location that are also involved with their predicate acts roles on and off Wethersfield police location. So these are police formed pertaining because they have the right to lie, that they have the right to fabricate audio and video interbranch with other nations, and with that had influences over them all kinds of ways. They use depositions, people associated with the locations next to schools, involved with identity theft frauds, and involved with them with the methods of setting up fact-cheating nature differences and fake positive or negative or neutral relationships to people that they want to pretend. These are roles with identity thefts and frauds. They have people walk next to each other, take a picture, and they lie about it. But these are also because people with the courts and their family members also criminally involved with them with identity thefts and frauds. Recording fabricated audio or video, whole methods of how they do it recorded, involving sequence shifts, uses of Facebook page for medicines crimes, drugs crimes, further predicate acts roles with the cover-ups of their further. So they've been involved with evidences racketeering all along the route and places associated with the route from Wethersfield to through Newington to Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut. Are people that are involved through time with interbranch, all privatized them, including doctors, with roles with various natures of predicate act and wrongdoing, insidious things, uses of other people's names, including their patients, roles with people, including people fabricating fake ties to patients. All along Church Street, there are people I don't know, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with Central Connecticut State University, with Church Street in Old Wethersfield, Connecticut, with various houses and people tied to them, involved with predicate acts with Wethersfield police and federal criminals since before they got caught, that were involved with other predicate acts, natures of them, with and as the co-defendants of former director of the FBI and their family members, like a Thaddeus Grabowski. Also, on and off Fox Connecticut News roles with the child abuses with the Mendez brothers. Also involved with wire crimes through time with them when they were kids too. So with the judges, family members, probate judges have been fabricating audio and video, and with physical delusions since founding. We are experts on thought, and the people associated with them, they have had to self-value. Live progressions being and having been already right to all locations from any position of sophistication. That's its value. Then all locations were set up for this. So there are two Corone brothers. I do not know them, and there's a Chet Casper. These are people that had other people use my name to them, and we got in a fight in the past. But these are people also involved with predicate acts with Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, and with people associated with Hartford, Connecticut downtown locations, involved with identity thefts and frauds, with other countries, and with our investigators' investigations, and people associated with Central Connecticut State University and with Trinity College, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with people that own the buildings associated with Dillon family and and neighbors of Fianza family that they brought into their confessions regarding the Dillon family. That is also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with predicate acts with kids on my street and with elderly and between neighbors. Now, Wethersfield police over the last 3.5-4 months, they recorded, confessed, and demonstrated that they've been forcing a Cololo family to further roles with their predicate acts, with the switching names, and with many people associated with the Lance Cuddy and with the Sullivan family are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with locations next to schools that are manifest for reasons known, but are exploited for reasons and by methods unfathomed, only because the process of demonstrating it reveals how all locations were used by everyone, and everyone's names are used dishonestly. This also reveals simultaneously how the interbranch rolls with that. So everyone has to hide from what is actually recorded from correlation nature. It has to pretend other. They have to value exceptions set up specifically for that, which is why we have to deal with how the investigators embedded identities were as actually recorded, being used and having been used to hide live aggressions, criminally foreign influence, readings of statutes involved with them pretending other. So follow mandated law for the news media too. They don't want to follow the law. All you have to do is help me out. Fix the lies they told you to put, and tell me who says that is true. All those lies you told, including attach me to fake ties to doctors and mental diagnosis. These are serious wire crimes, mail crime rules, child abuse rules. You guys have. Also with the doctors and the people associated with the programs of the child predators on the list, with bonds between them, that are further involved with the courts and with the people associated with those courts, and those patients and criminals before they got caught, and innocent people that are involved with identity thefts and frauds against, also as their roles, having acted illusions that are relevant to where and how they're trying to pretend they don't realize such. So we have to get them onto paper.